This is the year of an Olympiad, and the best are ready to perform. In the realm of track and field, it means that the best are set to prevail. Enter those athletes from the Pac-10 who have dominated the collegiate and world stage for decades. They are gathered here today in the Valley of the Sun to run, jump, throw, and vault their way into history. The Pac-10 Track and Field Championships, presented by 76, are next here on FSN.
This is how they will line up. No one in lane 1, but the race in the middle of the track, USC in 5, Arizona State in 6, and be careful with Cal in lane 4. They look very good in the prelims.
And they have a freshman anchoring, Sherelle Garrett, who had the fastest 100-meter time in the prelims, Dwight.
I should say their personnel looked good in the prelims. This is straight to the final 4x100 relay. Away cleanly, Arizona, Stanford, Cal, USC, and Arizona State in the middle, then UCLA, Washington State, Oregon as they come up to the first exchange. Arizona State looking good early.
Both handed off very well, excuse me, Dwight, and you can see down the backstretch, Shalina Clark, the hurdler from USC, has made up the stagger on Arizona State.
And USC's really in the driver's seat now as she passes to Judith Anya-Panuka. This race right now is USC's to lose.
Not as good a pass there from 2 to 3, but USC still in the lead as they get ready to pass to Carol Rodriguez. Chandra Williams taking off at the exact same time, and they have a tough time making the pass, and Carol Rodriguez is gone. USC, except for a pull or a dropped baton, is going to win this, and Cal is going to get second. It's USC and Carol Rodriguez at a walkover in the 4x100-meter relay, and it came down to that exchange from the third leg to the fourth leg, Otto.
Sharonda Williams just simply left too early, and it really cost Arizona State the silver medal here at the Pac-10 Championships.
Well, USC has to be happy because Carol Rodriguez didn't have to push herself too hard, did not have to hurt herself, because she is going to be busy the rest of this evening with the events that she has qualified for. USC, an easy winner in the first event, the 4x100-meter relay, followed by Arizona State and California.
And Dwight, Lionel Larry will anchor for USC, who we also mentioned in the Open, but their top sprinter, Ahmad Rashad, is injured and will not run the second leg.
And they're away with Arizona State in 4, Arizona in 5, and Washington in 6. Bo is out well on the first leg for Washington.
And USC had a terrible pass. Remember, that's their substitute leg for Ahmad Rashad, but now he's making up a lot of ground on the back stretch.
And that's Desmond Hamilton, a long jumper.
Washington continuing to pass pretty well. That's Joseph Turner, the junior, running the third leg for the Huskies. And here comes Arizona. Zhang Juan on the anchor. Terrible pass for them. Washington in the driver's seat at this point in time. Ryan Hamilton anchoring, and the Huskies will win it. It will be Washington, then Arizona State, and Arizona.
And that's a little bit of an upset given what Arizona State and Arizona had run coming in. But Washington, they had a great leadoff leg from Jordan Bowes. What a great warm-up for him for the evening he's about to have. And Washington are your 2008 Pac-10 champions.
Tempe, Arizona for more of the Pac-10 Track and Field Championships, presented by 76. Let's take a look back at that women's 4x100-meter relay. We finally did get the official word. There is a disqualification for Arizona State, and you can see why.
Right here, Dwight, bingo. You see the yellow running out there, and she did not receive the baton where the color of the track changes, and because of that, they are DQ'd. USC runs 44 flat, which is a reasonably decent time.
So, folks, just so you know, it's the baton that has to happen inside that zone. It did not. USA won it, of course. Cal second, Stanford third. So Arizona State getting no points, but we're expecting they will have so many points elsewhere that it will not be a big deal. Now let's take a look back to the previous night, women's 3,000-meter steeplechase, Tom.
Well, Dwight, it was obviously very hot in Tempe last night. That's Sophie Erdely of USC with the pink cap, and she set the pace, a very aggressive pace early on, but it was not to be. Sarah Trenet of Washington State easily winning her second Pac-10 steeplechase champion in a row. And Megan Leonard, her teammate, was third. That's who she's hugging. Lindsay Allen of Stanford, that juggernaut of Peter Teagan, finished second. And the time fairly respectable given the heat out here last night.
Inside.
3:36 through 1200 there, Dwight. And both Centrowitz and Blood seem to be breaking away.
And Centrowitz in a good position now, just off the shoulder of Blood and looking like she still has plenty of run left in her. And Lauren Centrowitz right there. Looks like she has more of the run in her. Centrowitz and Blood on the inside. Follett on the outside. And Follett coming back. She just laid back after she gave up the pace. And Katie Follett wins it, and Blood's going to miss and get fourth.
Katie Follett, boy, was that an interesting race that she ran. Controlling a very tactical race early, dropping back, letting Fulmer, Centrowitz, and Blood do the work, and then around that last turn, she really dialed it up and came through at the end. And now we see moving up into fifth is the second Cal runner who I had misidentified, and that is Mark Matuzak.
And Russell Brown now trying to drop in front of David Torrance, but Torrance not giving away the position. He's making him work hard out there in the outside of lane 1, but he drops down now. It's Russell Brown, AJ Acosta right on his shoulder. Heat now coming wide as Follett did in the women's race. David Torrance has been dropped, and Mark Matuzak of California now up to fourth. And it's going to be Garrett Heath who will win it over AJ Acosta, and Mark Matuzak might have gotten third to the fading Russell Brown, the defending champion. That first lap maybe taking it out of him a bit, and that surge by David Torrance in the third lap. Garrett Heath positioning himself nicely off the turn and swinging wide and finishing strong up the finishing stretch. Well, she has the A standard for the event, so she doesn't have to chase that at the trials, and she's getting ready now for the women's 100-meter hurdle. She's our pride of the pack, and she's going to be a very busy young lady as well over this Pac-10 conference meet, and then we're looking toward the West Regionals and the NCAA championships as well. She'll be starting out of lane 6, and she won't be having the race all to herself, just on her inside in lane 5. The sophomore from California had a great race yesterday, Kim-Yun Broom.
Yes, she did, and she is clearly the favorite based on the preliminary racing. Dwight 13-17 in those prelims last evening. So Jacqueline Johnson will certainly have to pay attention to the athlete to her left, Kim-Yun Broom, celebrating her birthday today.
And Shalina Clark of USC in lane 4, and this is the view from the spectacular baseball complex at Arizona State University here. Again, this facility really one of the finest in the country, and the track we all know very fast. Clark in 4 of USC, as we mentioned, Broom in 5, and Johnson in 6.
I'm the token girl to get the win. I gotta run everything.
Jacqueline Johnson out well, but so was Kim-Yun Broom. Shalina Clark as well. It is Kim-Yun Broom right in the middle of the track, the birthday girl, picking up where she left off yesterday. It's Broom from Cal. She's going to win it. Jacqueline Johnson is going to get second, and then Shalina Clark of USC will get third. So talk about having your best race at the right time. The sophomore from Cal picking up after her 13-17 surprise from yesterday.
Not a bad birthday present. Not a bad birthday present.
Let's not also lose fact that in lane 4 is Thomas Mack of Cal. Like Craddock, a great age group runner. And out in lane 9, a guy we're going to talk about much more a little bit later, Joshua Anderson of Washington State.
So Craddock and Kelly not right next to each other, so they are separated by Jordan Paul of Cal. USC with 3 hurdlers in this final. Remember, there's 9 runners in each of these races, only 8 score.
Kevin Craddock has a tendency to put the race away from the first hurdle.
And a good reaction by Craddock to the gun, and he's over the first hurdle first, and it's looking like the USC-UCLA duel all over again. Kevin Craddock in the middle of the track, just running away from people. Kai Kelly trying to keep up, but Kevin Craddock hits the last hurdle hard, but no problem, and Craddock winning by several meters. Wow. And when you think of the talent that's in this conference and how good a hurdler Kai Kelly is, that is an impressive run. Second time in a row here.
Absolutely, and just for clarification, you don't see a clock because there was a stadium malfunction. Now watch the start from the left, and you can see Craddock in the blue. He's the only one in the blue, right with the field there. In lane number 2, you see Oscar Spurlock of USC. He was the only one that could go out with Craddock. But then look at the snap, Otto. Boom, down. boom down. It's just so smooth.
And Tom, I said he puts Fields away from the first hurdle, and this was no exception. This was never in doubt from hurdle 1. Better technique, and he actually eases up going into the finish line.
Only hits one hurdle. To the right, there's Craddock. He only hits one hurdle in this. This is almost the prototypical way to hurdle. You know, Ronaldo Nehemiah said you want to skim over them. You don't want to, you want to just be as close as possible over the hurdle without hitting it. He gets as close to as possible over the hurdle without hitting it, except for the very last one, but the race was already won by then, and in fact, he was easing up. Look at that tongue. He's the Michael Jordan of hurdling, but that's the only hurdle that he hit, and he's smiling because it's a third straight Pac-10 championship. We'll get the time momentarily.
And let's look back at some events that you did not get a chance to see. This is the women's 400 meters, and Javon Benjamin, the junior from Arizona State, pretty much the rabbit in this race, but down the finishing straight, it was Keisha Baker, the sophomore of Oregon, out in lane 7, who holds off and passes the Lady Sun Devils and puts them in second and third. Baker wins it. Javon Benjamin finishes second, and Jordan Durham finishing third. You see how they will line up here from lane 1 to 9. Larry in 5, Bose in 6, and some other people, Joel Philippe, also from Arizona State, in this race in lane 4.
One thing about Bose is that this story is almost Forrest Gumpian in the fact that he didn't start running until his senior year of high school with 2 months to go, and he didn't run at all last year, preferring to take the year off. This kid has got one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard.
Spending some time with Lionel Larry over the last year or so, he's not a man easily impressed. So Jordan Bose is going to have to earn it over Lionel Larry, and Bose is out well in lane 6.
And look at that gap. Lionel Larry usually goes out hard, but he is unable right now to make up that gap on Jordan Bose. Jordan Bose has controlled the first half of this 400-meter championship.
And out in lane 9, Bobby McCoy for Arizona is running blind, but running fast way out there in lane 9, acting almost as a rabbit as they come into the final straightaway. Lionel Larry now moving up even with Jordan Bose and will come off the turn first. Now it's going to be Lionel Larry for USC in the middle of the track, then Jordan Bose, and on the outside, still hanging in there, Bobby McCoy of Arizona. Larry now lifting into the finish line. It will be Lionel Larry and Jordan Bose, so that has now been settled.
Wow, is all I can say.
Now this is how they will line up. You see Carol Rodriguez in 4, Yolanda Diego in 3, Sharonda Williams also for ASU in 6. Jessica Anya Panuka has been having a little bit of cramping problems here also in the race.
And your spoiler in this race is lane 5, Sherelle Garrett.
And Carol Rodriguez out well in lane 4. Also in lane 1, that is Kristen Lacey of UCLA, also in great shape. It's Kristen Lacey on the inside. This is going to be a blanket here, and it is very close.
I think Sherelle Garrett, Dwight, the freshman Sherelle Garrett, who had the fastest qualifying time yesterday, powered her way to victory. Her anchor leg on that 4x1 was no fluke. This is a sprinter to be reckoned with.
And that's why I said that's your spoiler, because when I looked at that replay of the 4x1, look at Sherelle Garrett
I
right
think
here.
lane 9 got a false start in this, by the way. Absolutely uncalled false start in lane 9 by Judith Anya Panuka. But nevertheless, it didn't disturb anybody. Sherelle Garrett is a strong sprinter. You can see her in the middle, and she was getting gained on there by Sharonda Williams. You can see Williams on the right, the Arizona State in the yellow, and Garrett on the left. And Garrett held her poise, held her form, and looked like leaned right at the tape to get it.
I think Garrett got it from Cal, and I called her a spoiler because, as I said, that 4x1 leg that she ran looked so good. Carol Rodriguez really disappointing, and we thought yesterday that Carol looked a little vulnerable. She has to be disappointed with that performance.
One other point about Carol Rodriguez is, without a doubt, in my opinion, her best event is the 400 meters. And here you can see at the finish, look at lane number 5, that's Garrett. Lane number 6, that's Sharonda Williams. Rodriguez eases up in lane 4. Diego has nothing in lane 3. There you can see from that vantage point, it looks like the chest, which is the important part to break the finish, belonged to Williams. But, Otto, I think we both felt that Garrett got the victory.
They've just announced the winner in the women's 100 meters, and I wasn't so convinced that the freshman had won that from the angle that we had it on.
It looks like Sharonda Williams, judging by her reaction there, is the winner. And as you can see, there she is. She knows she got it. And the junior, who has really improved this season, come up dramatically in her performances, and that's quite a victory celebration. You know what it reminds me of, Otto and Dwight, was the World 100-meter Championships.
That's correct, Osaka 2007.
Where they were waiting around, it seemed forever.
Let's be honest here, guys. This field, without Ahmad Rashad, has taken quite a hit because there is no one in here that broke 10:40 yesterday.
And we may get a finish like we just had.
Should make for a great race.
Sun Devils with 2, Oregon with just 1. And that is definitely a false start. And I agree with you, Tom. It did look like a false start in the women's race. It was not called. That is Joseph Turner of Washington.
Remember, Marcus Dillon, important points for Oregon on the line. Duncan and Calvin Abram in lane 6.
Duncan on the left, Dillon on the right. And Duncan out well with the gun. It is Marcus Duncan in lane 4 for Arizona State. Out in 6, that is Calvin Abram making a move. And also in lane 7, Wapama Osai of Stanford.
You know, Osai, though, ran very well in both the 100 and 200 prelims yesterday. And Osai is one of those guys that always seems to come up and run well at the conference meet.
And I think everyone in the race focused on the middle. And as we usually see, I mean, this really was not close. He lifts better towards the end, and he even has time to celebrate as Marcus Duncan of Arizona State comes in for second. But Osai got a great start. Look at him, second from your left of picture, third from your left of picture now, and didn't have the best of starts, but his pickup in the middle and his ability to hold his top end speed while everyone else is decelerating. And Osai of Washington State. Stanford, excuse me, gets the victory.
And Marcus Dillon of Oregon did not help the Ducks very much. Looked like he was about 5th in that particular race. So Osai comes out of nowhere, but that was the kind of race it was. And we'll be back with more for the Pac-10 Track Championships right after this. The women's 800 meters and one of the premier athletes in the nation in this race as we look at the Pac-10 meet record, which was set last year by Alicia Johnson, 2:01.74. And from Stanford, that is Alicia Fulmer, who will be in lane 6.
And Alicia Fulmer was 3rd in that 1500 just a few moments, well, not a few moments, but an hour or so ago, running 4:23.65. And this is a very, very tough double. That's 4 races in 2 days in 90-degree weather.
And in lane 4, that's the sophomore from Oregon, Zoe Buckman, who has had some very good races under her belt this year.
A bit of a sleeper here. She's from Australia, a very, very top-flight junior athlete that came over to the University of Oregon and certainly is going to make the race honest for Alicia Johnson, who is all everything. This is a woman that made the U.S. World Championship team, won the USA Outdoors last year, won the NCAA Indoor and Outdoor last year. However, has not really put together a great race yet this year.
You talk about Lionel Larry. This is another one of the toughest athletes on the track. To beat her, you are going to absolutely have to have the best race you've ever had.
She is the female Lionel Larry, without a doubt. There is no doubt about it. And she likes to take the lead from the front, and you can see her doing that right now. She has that trademark flower in her hair. Now, that's Mackenzie Pierce of Cal, her teammate, who's tucking in right behind her. And Alicia Johnson is not going to allow this pace to lag. Even in the heats yesterday, she went out in 58 seconds for the first 400. And you can see Zoe Buckman tucking in right there for the first 200. A nice 27.9.
And Alicia Johnson always liking to control the pace from the front. We've watched her do that for the last 2 years. She did it in making the U.S. team that went to Osaka last summer. She did it at the Pan Am Games down in Brazil last summer. It's just the way she is comfortable running. And she may want to mix that up a little bit when she gets to Beijing and gets into those rounds of the 800 as we come up to the first 400 and roughly right around 59 low for Alicia Johnson.
And Pierce and Buckman having a little tango over there, 59.4, and Pierce tucking again right in behind her teammate. Now, yesterday, Pierce went out very fast in the prelims and faded right about at this mark, and you can see, look at the strength of Alicia Johnson. You talked about Lionel Larry, Otto, and Alicia Johnson is cut from that same mold, just very, very, very strong. She's not the most artful runner, but she may be the toughest.
You've got to want it. And at this point, when you are the NCAA champion, you have a big target on your back. And the way you put people away is to push the pace. And that's what Alicia Johnson has done. And look how much easier she's made the race for
She
herself.
just made a big move on Buckman, 130 through 600. So she's going to run about 201 here. And this is the most impressive performance thus far this year for Alicia Johnson. We've got the clock on the screen, and no better time for it than right now. She is putting on a virtuoso performance, Dwight.
Tony Sandoval of Cal has taught her how to run hard in that third 200, and look at the gap she created as she just misses breaking 2 minutes here at the Pac-10. Zoe Buckman hanging on for second place, and we'll get who finished third for you momentarily. But Alicia Johnson so far ahead, and it's because she just gunned it in that third 200, which is what every coach will tell you you have to do in this, maybe the second toughest event in the sport. I always think, of course, the 400-meter hurdles, but Alicia Johnson, just another day at the office for her winning once again the Pac-10 championship.
And one thing for Alicia Johnson, as we look at the NCAAs and the West Regionals and everything like that, right now she's the second fastest collegiate runner of all time with her 1:59.29 from last year. And I think, judging by the way she looked today, Susie Hamilton's 1:59.11 is in jeopardy at some point in this year, and that goes back to 1990.
Maybe at regionals it goes.
From Arizona State with a mark of 20 meters 30.
So Alicia Johnson already pretty well recovered from that 800, and we'll go down to Lindsay Soto.
Alicia Johnson came into her Cal career out of high school with a PR of 2:08, girl. Can you imagine, I mean, how far you've come as you get ready to wrap up your career here at Cal?
I've come so far. I mean, with my training with Coach Tony Sandoval, he's helped me progress, not only in the athlete, but in a person, as a person. I mean, with as far as mental and physical, both together, and that's what was making me the athlete that I am.
Coach Sandoval calls you a racer, not a runner. What does that mean to you?
It means I'm down for racing. I mean, a runner, I think, is like someone who kind of just goes through the motions, goes through the pace. I like to race. I'm racing against the clock. I want to push myself.
A runner maybe would have ran that race a little bit closer than you just did. All right, the flower. You got to tell us the origins of the flower, how this thing got started.
Well, I mean, there's several different things that started the original flower, but you know, I started it in high school, a little bit of group with a bunch of boys, just a way to set myself apart from the others, and to kind of establish myself as a girl whooping their butt. So
Well, you have set yourself apart here in the Pac-10. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
Dwight.
All right, Lindsay. Well, Alicia Johnson just missing breaking 2 minutes here in this heat in Tempe. She wins it again, defends her title. Zoe Buckman is second. Anna Lehman, the freshman of Washington State, comes up for third with a big personal best. So there's your 1, 2, 3. Alicia Johnson. We expect to see her in Beijing later on this summer as we now get ready for the men's 800 meters. Pac-10 meet record held by Olympic champion Joaquin Cruz of Oregon and Brazil. Ryan Brown of Washington, the Pac-10 champion from 2007. And a very, very good race shaping up here between Dwayne Solomon of USC, who we saw just a couple weeks ago in the dual meet, second at this meet last year. But another young man who could vie for the Olympic team later this summer, Tom.
We are blessed with so many outstanding athletes. Dwayne Solomon makes the U.S. team in the World Championships. I would not consider him the favorite in this event. Andrew Weeding of Oregon. This is a 6'5" kid from Vermont. He started running his senior year in high school. He has overtaken the collegiate middle distance scene this year. Has run 3:38 for 1,500 meters. We know about Oregon's middle distance legacy. He has decided, hey, I'm the tops in the country right now at 1,500. I'm going to move down to the 800 and take on Dwayne Solomon in his event. And this is going to be a nectar race.
And you know, guys, I favor the sprints, but this is one of the races I have been looking forward to for the entire night. Should be a very, very good one.
Well, Russell Brown of Stanford has withdrawn after running the 1,500 meters, so that lane 4 will be open. But you can see Andrew Weeding in 5, and then Dwayne Solomon of USC will be out in lane 7.
And David Torrance bouncing back from the 1,500 as well, but I don't blame Russell Brown for taking the powder on this event. This one is going to be great.
Stand up, please. Stand up, please. My bad.
And again, this field, also Corey Prim from UCLA, the 3-time California State High School champion in the 800, running out in lane number 2. Nectali Barbosa, freshman from Arizona State, talent out in lane 6.
Well, they will stay in their lanes through this first turn, then break for the pole at the head of the backstretch. And Dwayne Solomon, as usual, is out there quickly.
He likes to go out, just like Alicia Johnson. He really likes to take control from the front. Andrew Wheating is not used to this. Andrew Wheating is an 800, 1500 guy, not a 400, 800 guy like Solomon is. Solomon can run a 45-second 400. Andrew Wheating can't. That's why it's going to be speed versus strength here. First 225 flat. That gives you an idea that Dwayne Solomon needs his normal strategy to win this race.
And David Torrance, who doubled back from the 1500, is way off the pace. I think he might be thinking that they're running a 1500 again because he's going at about that pace. So it is Dwayne Torrance, and now it is Andrew Wheating moving up into second place, but he just doesn't want to go out in that blistering pace that Torrance has set. He's coming through right around 52 high.
And Dwayne Solomon, again, he is expending a lot of energy right now. Wheating has got his marker, and the race here is going to be won right about here in this third 200, because if Wheating doesn't make the move now, then Dwayne Solomon's superior speed may be the marker here at the end. And you can see Nectali Barbosa, the 2 freshmen, Barbosa and Prim, right there too in third and fourth.
Solomon looking very, very good here, but he's doing all the work on his own. Andrew Wheating not really closing that gap over that third 200, which means he ran at the same pace, but he is not gaining any ground. Prim now in third. Barbosa is out of it. And from Washington, that is Austin Abbott. Now there's a little bit less gap.
Here comes Wheating,
Here
Dwight.
comes Wheating, and it is going to be Dwayne Solomon, who has just run too hard from the front, and Andrew Wheating timing his kick beautifully. Dwayne Solomon may hang on for second, and the freshman Prim from UCLA will get third.
Wow, wow, we are seeing a tremendous talent in Andrew Wheating. Andrew Wheating, not only is he, look at Dwayne Solomon, he can't believe what he saw. He cannot believe that Andrew Wheating beat him like that.
6 feet 5 inches and a well-timed kick will do that to you.
And I'll tell you what, Wheating has a great sense of pace. This is not an experienced middle distance runner. This is a guy who has run not at this level for too many years. And you can see Wheating, he's got the grit down on his face. Solomon a little bit moving side to side. Wheating, just look at that determination. Look at that face. He looks, oh, now he's looking to the crowd. He knows he's got it right there. He looks a little bit like Michael Phelps, and he runs like Michael Phelps swims. This kid is a comer.
You are a very different type of runner than Dwayne Solomon. He likes to go out really early. You don't necessarily. What was your strategy here to race against him?
Well, we didn't want to assume anything, but after last year's performance, I expected him to go out hard. I mean, I was just supposed to stay within reach, don't push myself too hard, and with 200 meters to go, just hammer it home. As my coach told me so delicately, have a whopping last 100 meters.
I think you did that.
Yeah,
I think he'll be happy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dwight, back to you.
He's just upset a very good 800-meter runner. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tempe, Arizona for more of our coverage of the Pac-10 Track and Field Conference Championships presented by 76. And just moments ago, we had the women's 400-meter hurdles. In the center of the track, it was Shalina Clark of USC in 6th, Lorraine King and Casey Harwood. And coming up the finishing stretch, it was Shalina Clark finishing strong and finishing nicely, who wins it for the Lady Trojans. Lorraine King, the junior from Washington State, finished second, and Casey Harwood of Oregon getting third, all three under 59 seconds, as we now get ready for the men's 400-meter hurdles. And some great personnel in this race, some of whom we've seen earlier in the meet. The meet record, Olympic champion and world record holder Kevin Young holds the meet record, and Brandon Johnson of UCLA won the meet last year in 50.03. And we get another chance to see Kai Kelly, who was in the 110-meter hurdles earlier and lost badly to Kevin Craddock of UCLA.
This is his natural event, though, the 400 hurdles. And he is going to have a heck of a matchup with the freshman from Washington State, Joshua Anderson, who is a talent that may be one of the greatest in an event that has a tremendous history in the United States. And Joshua Anderson, of course, also a college football player. And let's look back to last year's California State High School Championships, where the long-standing 20-year-old record of George Porter from Cabrillo High School in Lompoc finally went down to Joshua Anderson, running for Taft High School of Woodland Hills. And Anderson ran 35-28 to take down that very venerable record. And if you think that was great, Anderson got done with that, ran on the U.S. Junior Circuit last year, and then laced up for Bill Doba's football team. His very first catch was for a touchdown, and then here in the big Washington State 100th anniversary Apple Cup game, Joshua Anderson also caught a touchdown pass. And now you see him here, Dwight.
And Joel Phillip continuing to beat his body up here at this Pac-10 championship. Had the third fastest 400-meter time in the conference this year, and he isn't done. He's still got a 4x400 relay leg to run. And we've been talking about this track. It's clearly not yielding very fast times. And I mentioned you can't use the word soft and fast in the same sentence with a track. And I think this softer track is starting to vibrate these people's legs into oblivion. As we look at how they will line up, it will be Kai Kelly inside in lane 3, a little tight for the tall striding Kelly. Joshua Anderson will be in lane 5, and Joel Phillip way out there in lane 8 with only one other athlete to draw off of.
And Joel Phillip ran 45-29 and for third in that 400 race behind Larry and Bose.
What a quadruple attempt by Joel Phillips.
What did he do to have to do this in this meet? He must have really got
the short straw, I guess.
Yeah, Greg Kraft upset with him.
That's right. He made it mad. And they are away. Kai Kelly in 3, Joshua Anderson in 5, Joel Phillip way out in 8.
Joshua Anderson crushed the first hurdle, really smacked that hard, Dwight.
And that will really hurt your pattern. This is a patterned race. These guys are trying to get 13 early in the race when they're fresh, and then maybe some of them will alternate, others will go to 15. But Joshua Anderson is still in the lead, but it's hard to say how much that first hurdle crash has taken out of him as he now alternates. Kai Kelly coming up on the inside in lane 3. It is Anderson continuing to lead.
12 steps, Dwight. He's taken 12 steps all the way around. This is unbelievable.
And you see him stretching for it, and he made it. Anderson continuing to lead, but here comes Kai Kelly on the inside. How he negotiates the 10th hurdle is going to be everything. It's Kai Kelly closing hard, but Joshua Anderson still has something left. And in lane 6, Jake Hansen of Cal holds off Kai Kelly for second place. So hard to say what Joshua Anderson might have been able to do had he not had trouble negotiating that very first hurdle of this race.
In a career race by Jake Hansen, he really came down. Watch how he slams the first hurdle here. Right here, he just takes it to whacks the heck out of it and sends it sprawling. But you know what? He's a poised kid. He did not lose his focus, did not phase him one bit. In fact, he increased his lead here, Otto.
That impressed me the most, Tom, because most freshmen smacking that first hurdle, it would have thrown their race off. Look at him coming off. This is hurdle 9 right now. At this point, he is reaching, holding his form, and when he found himself in trouble, he went to his technique. Even here, when Kai Kelly makes a run on the inside, he goes to the arms. Look at that finish by the freshman.
And he has the same kind of build as your Andre Phillips's, your Kevin Young's, etc. Lindsay.
Joshua Anderson hit that first hurdle pretty hard. How did you recover from that?
Just stay positive and try to get back in rhythm. I think I didn't fall or nothing, so all praise to God on that one. I just clipped a couple, so kind of got me off rhythm, but just stay with it and then stay focused and run through the tape.
You lost to Kai Kelly in your first outdoor meet of the season. What did you do differently this time from a strategic standpoint?
Just got out hard. That's how I ran in high school, and my first race didn't run it like that. And that's about all I did. Wanted to get out hard and really pass up everybody, so I could cruise and then kind of get back in my rhythm, and then push it a little harder at the end.
Joshua Anderson, boy, worked hard tonight, worked hard this whole entire season, went from outdoor track to football to indoor track to outdoor track. He's still going. I don't know how. Dwight, back to you.
All right, Lindsay. Well, it shows you how hard this event is as we see the times all under 50 seconds in the 400-meter hurdles. We're back with the 200s when we come back. You can see how they'll line up here. Jessica Onyepanuka, who we've not heard much from in this meet, will be in lane 4 between Williams and Rodriguez, and then Garrett out in lane 8 It's going to be a little bit lonely out there. She won't really know much about what's happening until they come off the turn.
And Carol Rodriguez, excuse me, Tom. Carol Rodriguez was disappointing in the 100, but did the smart thing. I can't win. Let me not kill myself trying to lean. She backed off, and here's her chance to redeem herself.
Good point. And getting back to Jessica Anya-Panuka, who's on Rodriguez's inside, she was second to Rodriguez last year in this event at the Pac-10s. A very, very good field with Yolanda Diego of UCLA in lane 6 as well, a contender.
And let's see how Carol Rodriguez gets out. We know that she jogged the first 100 meters in the USC-UCLA dual meet a few weeks ago. And she is looking much stronger here, but on her inside, that is Jessica Anya-Panuka from USC looking very good, well, as is Yolanda Diego. Now here comes Sharonda Williams in lane 3. She's going to be a double winner. Sharonda Williams in 3, and her teammate out in lane number 7. The freshman Dominique Malloy. They go 1-2 for the Sun Devils. And we're ready now for the men's 200 meters, which should be an interesting race because a lot of the sprinters from the 100 are doubling back, including the 100-meter champion, Wopama Osaisai from Stanford, who will be in lane 2. But this race has huge team implications. Daryl Elston and Calvin Abram in 3 and 4 for ASU, and then Phil Alexander for Oregon out in lane 6.
And one wonders, will Osaisai's win in the 100, playing spring football, Otto, does he have a chance to double back here in the 200?
Well, a guy that size coming out of lane 2, he's certainly not going to be my pick. But at the same time, of course, Ahmad Rashad was supposed to be the favorite in this race. He did not start in the prelims, got injured, and that was the end of his championships. But what it does is it leaves the gate wide open for any one of these gentlemen. And as Dwight said, of course, the team race very important with lanes 3 and 4 for Arizona State and Oregon.
And that 20 flat that you ran years ago was not something that any of these guys may even get within a second of.
Well, downhill maybe with a breeze, but let's see.
Calvin Abram of Arizona State not starting in lane 8, a possible scorer. And Elston and Abram out well in lanes 3 and 4. It is imperative that they finish very, very high if Arizona State's going to cut into the lead of Oregon. And off the turn, it is the 2 ASU athletes. It is Daryl Elston on the right. It is Calvin Abram in the middle, and now here comes Phil Alexander out lane 6. Can he catch either one of them? No. It is Daryl Elston who will win it. Very close for second between Calvin Abram and Phil Alexander. I'm not convinced that the Oregon runner didn't get in there and break up that sweep, but still important points for the Sun Devil.
Now, in the women's 10,000 last night, the pace was pedestrian at best. They were all running together in the 85-degree temperature. Finally, Alexandra Gitz of Stanford, the freshman phenom, came through, won easily, and took a big victory for Stanford. With Arizona State's and Oregon's runners coming through second and third place, gets the easy winner. Ali Kielte of Arizona State second. Sarah Pearson of Oregon was third.
Well, let's get caught up on some of the events that were contested earlier, but yet had a very big impact on the team score. Tom, first the men's steeplechase.
After 4 years of Arizona State's Aaron Aguayo dominating in the conference, I think most coaches thought that that would be the end for the Sun Devils, but Louis Quintana found another one. Kyle Alcorn, who had just a tremendous race, easily winning on his home track over Henry Hagenbrook, who despite the 90-degree conditions still set a personal best, and Chris Winter of Oregon, who was third. Now, interestingly enough, a few minutes later, Winter set the pace for the first 3,000 of this men's 10,000 last night, trying to pace along his Oregon teammates, pick up a lot of points. This is where the Ducks would be really strong before the team battle. So early on, it was Winter and then Carlos Trujillo who came through for the Ducks in the last 2 laps. Here was one of his pace setters, Diego Mercado. Kenny Klotz gets second. A huge performance by Kyle Shackleton of UCLA to get third.
Let's take you back to the women's 4x400 meter relay. This is the final exchange. Arizona State with a healthy lead. Javon Benjamin running for the Arizona State Sun Devils. But look at Alicia Johnson of Cal. She took the Bears from 8th all the way to 2nd as she just ran by people. The strength of this woman after an impressive 800-meter performance where she almost broke 2 minutes. ASU does win it, but Alicia Johnson takes the Bears from 1 point to 8 points in the women's 4x400 relay, with Oregon finishing 3rd. Truly impressive. It's going to be great to watch her over the next few weeks leading up to the Olympic trials as we get now ready for the men's 4x400 meter relay. always a treat. With a Pac-10 meet record held by Arizona State, their fine quartet back in 2004. USC is the defending champion. On paper, Arizona State would have to be the favorite.
Well, what's going to be interesting here is with Oregon having wrapped up the team title, Arizona State made a couple of changes in personnel, but Joel Phillip, running his 6th event, will still be running here, even though Arizona State did not win the team title.
Now getting ready for the West Regional NCAA Championships and, of course, the NCAA Championships later on.
And that's Marcus Profit of Arizona State leading off. He's replaced Jimmy Gordon, who pulled up lame in the 400 meters, which actually hurt the Arizona State men's team in this meet with Gordon's injury. And then he will hand off to Darrell Elston, who we saw win the 200 meters.
Even Oregon dropping the baton or being disqualified will not have any effect on their ability to win the team title here. Their lead is such that even losing 10 points and getting nothing here would not affect the fact that they are going to win on the men's side.
And Arizona State really feeling the crowd now. We saw it in the women's race, but now here they are right in the thick of things in this men's 4x4. The crowd is definitely behind them as they are on their home turf.
But speaking of behind, they're in about 5th place as they make that exchange.
Awful exchange.
They'll make that break for the pole off this first full turn, and they might end up in 4th if he is smart about the way he runs the angle.
And Dwayne Solomon is running for USC. Of course, who could forget Andrew Wheating chasing Dwayne Solomon down on the 800 meters down the stretch. And Dwayne Solomon now trying to hold on for the Trojans here. He will be handing off to Nate Anderson, who is a converted 400-meter runner to 800-meter runner. And the Ducks now, boy, they've had a terrific meet. That's Chad Barlow, who's making a great run of it now. And meanwhile, Anderson will get the baton, and it'll be Marcus Dillon from Oregon who'll be right there.
So it's going to be USC, Oregon, Washington State, and then Arizona State in 4th. Again, this is for bragging rights. The team title has been sewed up by the University of Oregon on the men's side.
One thing that we'll want to look for, Dwight, is how Washington runs as they get the baton in position for Jordan Bowes. Currently, the Huskies are in 6th place. There's one more leg before Bowes gets it, but he's a relatively fresh athlete in this meet.
Oregon, at least it says Marcus Dillon is running this 3rd leg. We do not have the correct runner for USC, so we won't even try.
Oregon on the outside. Oregon seizes the lead and now sets up this 3rd leg. Here comes Arizona State as well.
Here comes Arizona State handing off. And that's to Joel Phillip, who has had a few events this weekend. And as well, Oregon is being anchored by Ashton Eaton.
Now, the fellas sleep on the turn, and look at Kai Kelly go right by the both of them, making them pay for their mistake.
So Kai Kelly of USC trying to run the Trojans into a victory here. They've had a very tough meet on the men's side.
And I would not count Washington out either, because Jordan Bowes is going to anchor for the Huskies.
Kai Kelly has been passed, and Arizona State is going to try to hold off Oregon. Like I said, this was for bragging rights, and it's going to be at the line. Arizona State hanging on, which is a great performance when you consider they were in 5th place at the first exchange and very methodically, very deliberately worked themselves back into contention. Even though they dropped what was probably the favorite role for winning the team title here, they do come back and win the final event, the 4x400 meter relay. When we come back, we'll be wrapping it up. All the points, all the scores you could want when we come back to Tempe, Arizona.
In the men's 5,000 meters, who could have expected this? Kyle Alcorn before a very appreciative hometown crowd. After beating the best distance runners in the country in the steeplechase the night before, runs away with it in another well-timed finish in the 5,000 meters. And what an impressive performance. He defeats Diego Mercado of Oregon and Yosef Debre of Cal.
So it has been another great Pac-10 Conference Track and Field Championships. The women from ASU and the men from Oregon taking home the team titles. They move on to the West Regional NCAAs and then the NCAAs in Des Moines, Iowa in June.